That right there is disrespectful to Ryan. He is the producer of
So
the
sorry, Ryan. Okay, we'll talk about it later. All right. Yes, you'll get time out of the cage in a minute.
show.
Hello, RailCats fans, and welcome back to the RailCats Talk podcast. He's Chuck Polarek. I'm Kyle Svetich. And the off season, it's probably
Hold
officially
on a second.
begun. I hope.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
You say welcome RailCats fans, but we need to say and Joe because apparently Joe
Oh,
listens to our podcast. So welcome RailCats fans and Joe, the owner of the RailCats. Go ahead, try it again.
whoa.
Try it again.
Hello, RailCats fans, and welcome. Oh, see, I can't do it. It's been ingrained in my head for at least 3 seasons now.
Ah,
That I can't do it. I can't. It just listen,
ah.
listen. Maybe next week we'll try it all over again and it'll
You know
work.
what? Start it off the way you do it, but leave a pause for me and I'll interject.
Okay. Hello, RailCats fans, and
And
welcome back.
Joe.
See, it's ingrained in my. It's just not gonna happen. All right, listen. It's just
All right.
not. This week is not
Next
the
time.
week.
We'll practice off
We'll
air.
practice off screen, and if my face changes a bunch of different colors one time, if you're watching, I do have the Blackhawks preseason game on right next to me.
No,
So I'm
no.
sorry if the red and
He
stuff.
is
That's not gonna take
very
away.
embarrassed.
Yeah, okay, fine. Embarrassment, whatever the case may be. It's hockey season, okay? That's this, but we're not here for hockey. We're not here about who watches the podcast. Well, we are here for people that watch the podcast, but ultimately we're here for people that support the Railcats, and
That's
that's what
right.
we're here for.
That's right.
But with that being said, we did tease last week that we have three special awards that we decided on and giving out. Those awards are the MVP, Pitcher of the Year, and the RailCat Player of the Year. The reason we don't have Offense or Defensive Player of the Year is because the MVP would have taken both of those categories. So we just wrapped it into one. Obviously, MVP is explained, Pitcher of the Year is explained. The RailCat Player of the Year award to me, this comes from when I coached football and wrestling and all that. It's about a player who has it's almost like a mental attitude award who you may not be statistically the best or statistically the best, but you're just a player that comes to the field every day. You're putting in the work in the in the off season or during the season, the way you interact with fans, you talk with players or teammates among themselves. So that's the lay of the land on that portion of it. So we'll start with the MVP. You wanna go with it, or do you want me to go with it?
You go with the MVP.
Okay, the MVP is Olivier Basabe.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
so I'm just gonna give a couple here. So he led the team
Well, hold
in
on. Brick wall, Basabe.
brick wall. Yes, Olivier brick wall Basabe. He led the team in games played at 99. He was second in runs scored, third in hits, first in doubles, first in triples, RBIs. He had the most walks, and he was second in runs created. Fielding percentage was a 934, but again, fielding percentage is such a. I've been reading a book about statistics and I'm not going to get dive, but it opened my eyes to the possibility that we cannot always look at errors and fielding percentages when looking at a defensive player because opportunities may be different and sometimes errors don't reflect the player. And Basabe was a very good third baseman, and it showed that when he wasn't at third, there was a big gaping hole, and he was just someone.
You could compare him at third base and just watch other teams at third base. And Basabe was knocking down balls or stopping balls that other third basemen couldn't get.
Yes,
That being said, sometimes with those knocking the ball down, he wouldn't get to it, or knocking the ball down, he would overthrow first, and those would lead to an error. But it didn't mean that he was not over excelling at third base, and that is the reason why he's brick wall Basabe.
yes. Uh, I know he was very hot at the beginning of the year offensively, and he kind of cooled himself off a little bit and wasn't like the eye-popping numbers, the statistics, your slash line. Like he wasn't up there in batting percentage, he wasn't up there in slugging, he wasn't up there in OPS, but that at the beginning of the year and what he was able to do consistently throughout the season, he was. There are players that you could have taken out the lineup and someone could have filled that role and would have been fine. I wish that's why we kind of had a war a little bit, that I could be able to break that down. Another statistic that, people don't always like to look at, but I'm just saying it's one of those without him in the lineup and without him at third, there was a bigger hole than you couldn't just replace him with someone else. It just seemed like this year he was just the irreplaceable person that you needed in the lineup. And that's hence why he played 99 games this year.
Yep.
The
Yep.
only one to reach 99 games.
Yeah. I think both of us looked at or thought about this award and both came up with hands down, it's Basabe.
Yeah, I mean, we sat there and we talked about, um, you know, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, and uh, offense. You could argue different ways. You could have argued, Carlos Rincon, Miguel Sierra, Ali Basabe, LG Gio. You could have argued all of those. Defensively, I don't think you could have argued any of them really, besides Basabe, and just the what he was able to lead the categories in and what he was able to do, it was just one of those that we couldn't. It was like, okay, I love Bisabe. Here's three awards. Now we'll just combine it all and you get the MVP. So that's why that kind of roped
There
itself
you
into
go.
that.
There you
It's
go.
simple, plain to the point. Uh, Moving on, or do you have any more comments about Bisabe and his year this year?
Congratulations, Basabe. You've earned the MVP award from the RailCats Talk podcast.
There you go. Next year we were talking about a reward show, and we'll
Actually
we'll,
giving
we'll have
away
yeah.
awards, which would be pretty sweet. Which reminds me, if we have any sponsors that are listening to this show that would like to purchase awards for these players, I think the cost is only like $20. But hey, you sponsor it. We'll put your name down at the very bottom, sponsored by whatever. So it would say RailCats Talk podcast in smaller letters, Basabe down at the bottom, provided by your company name. Guaranteed to sit on somebody's shelf for a prolonged period of time.
Or a paperweight. Who
Or
knows?
somewhere it's
Uh,
going to sit somewhere.
yeah.
There we go.
Speaking of which, we'll move on to the pitcher of the year.
This one was
I,
obvious.
you know, you say that it's obvious, but when you go back and you look, it could get a little bit debatable.
You could say that.
Between a handful of them, it's
You could.
debatable.
But here's the thing. When you're watching all of these games like we do, right? You listen to all these games. There was only one pitcher that went out there where we said to ourselves, I feel confident this guy is going to get us through it.
Yes, and that guy was Josh Smith.
That's
I
right.
there was no you could have potentially argued Valdez,
You could have.
um, but we didn't, and that's just the
Nope.
guy that we felt most comfortable with. If we look at his year statistically, he played in 47 games. He had 49 innings pitched. He had the lowest ERA. It was a 3.49, a whip of 1.24, uh, strikeouts, 9 per K. I mean, he was just there and he was consistent. He was that guy that you could rely on. And in a yeah, you could have rotated between Valdez and Alexander and Smith being those three guys. You could have, and Pinto was one of those guys at the beginning. You rotated to four, but the guy we felt most comfortable with was Josh Smith, and which really landed and also landed him to sign in the Puerto Rican Winter League this year. So he's going to be playing winter ball in Puerto Rico. I'm not going to be able to say the name. I'm not going to attempt to say the name. I will just butcher it. Um,
Now, let me ask you this, Kyle, because I'm not sure. Uh, have these awards leaked out yet? And is it because he won this award that he was able to sign with Puerto Rico?
no,
That's the rumor that I'm hearing. That's your room.
I don't think a professional baseball league in Puerto Rico was listening to the podcast or contacting me and asking if I was going to give him the award. If I wasn't going
There's
to give him the
rumors
award,
out
he literally
there.
was going to sign.
I'm not going to confirm or deny. I'm just saying there's rumors out there that the reason why they picked him up in the Puerto Rican League is because they knew that he was winning the Super
I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think that was just pure talent and what he was able to do this year, being an all-star.
Bowl. We'll agree to disagree.
I agree to okay, yeah, no, yeah, okay. Um, no, I don't. There's a lot of things that can be said about the way Josh Smith pitched, uh, his work ethic, being an all-star. That's a big contributor to this as well. Being an all-star, being one of the core horses of the bullpen, him
Yep.
coming in and just shutting the door. You know, everyone has their ups and downs, but his his highs were high and his lows were like not that low. Like there you can't
Those were
I
average.
there's not a lot of games where I go that I can remember him giving up more than he took away.
Right.
And there's a lot more games where he took away than he gave up. So
Absolutely.
I don't there's
Congratulations,
yeah.
Josh Smith.
And there's not pitchers. It's so hard to awards. I'm not going to sit here and talk 20 minutes about awards for each person, but sometimes you can. So going on to the award that I enjoy the most to look at because everyone can have statistics and all this other fun stuff and go, yeah, that guy was really good, really talented. But sometimes those really talented, good guys aren't necessarily the best people off the field. But this award, the RailCat Player of the Year, has nothing to do with your statistics. Little to none to do with statistics. It is all based on work ethic on the field, before the game, after the game, in the hotel room, on long car rides, bus rides, all that other fun stuff. This
This is the guy
player,
that you want to have on your team.
yes,
Whether he's hot or he's cold, this is the guy that you want to have on your team. This
exactly.
is the guy that you want to model your working around. This is a guy that you want to be like. This is a guy that if you are a kid and you're looking up to this guy, good choice.
Yep. Um, so we debated this for a little bit, but ultimately it came down to none other than only Speedy Gonzalez, Gio Diaz.
Absolutely.
He what he does, he's the first guy on the field for warm-ups. He's the first guy to you wave at him, you say hi, he's got a big smile on his face, he'll wave back, he'll come over to talk to you. His work ethic off the field, it could be a 3.5 hour, 4 hour game, and he's on Instagram Live having batting practice, or he's just swinging away, working out in the middle of the season. Once he's even when the season's over, he's swinging the bat, he's doing something. His mental attitude towards this game is something that I hope to see him get that opportunity at affiliate ball because he has that mindset. He has that personality. And, sometimes people get overlooked and don't get that kind of limelight. And which he deserves every ounce of it. He has been a great player to watch. He has been, how should I say, he hasn't always had that opportunity, but when he's had that opportunity, he's overcome and taken that opportunity. When you talk about the 2023 season coming in and Lamar Rogers like, hey, I'm gonna probably have to cut you during spring training. And he just keeps working his way up and taking people's spots, and he earns himself a spot. And, in that offseason, he gets a chance to play in the Mexican League. He gets an opportunity in the Puerto Rican League. Like, he just gets all these opportunities. But with that being said, he's just, no matter what life has thrown at him baseball wise, he always puts a smile on his face and he keeps his head down and he puts in the work. That's why he's the RailCat Player of the Year.
I agree with that 1,000%. I'll tell you what, I did not want to pick Geo because I was his host family, and I felt like, maybe I'm being a little biased on this. So I looked at other players, and I thought, what is it that I'm looking at for this reward? And to me, you know, the fact that he's the first guy out on the field, he has no problem talking to the fans and making them or helping them love the game, helping them love the RailCats. His determination and his focus are next to none. I mean, you cannot find anybody that can beat him in that category. And the fact that every time he's out there, he gives it his all. Uh, that right there, I mean, Gio was uh, absolutely a extremely important part of the RailCats this year, even if statistics weren't necessarily what they were last year or any of the other stuff. Doesn't matter. He came out more determined this year, even when the RailCats were losing. When you'd ask him, hey, he goes, "We got to get a win." That was it. It was, "We got to win, we got to win, we got to win," and it was. I mean, hey, you get more players like that, and you can't be beat. So
So congratulations to Geo and all of the award winners that we announced.
I want to throw another award out there.
Oh, well,
I'm kind of, I told you I was going to spring a lot of new stuff up on you
and
here.
that's perfectly fine. Go right ahead.
I am tossed up between two people for front office award of the year. Uh, and to me, there were two people that I think really excelled in the front office. I'm going to say three. I was kind of at a toss up of all this, but I I am going to throw out there that I believe that Brandon should get clubhouse front office award of the year. Would you agree with that?
I would. Um, I know that realistically, he wasn't the general clubhouse manager that you would get throughout the league. This was an intern basis. Still in high school. Well, at the time was still in high school. Graduated high school, going to college. Been a lifetime RailCat fan, an encyclopedia of RailCat knowledge. Just his love for the game in general. I mean, heck, he went out to California to go see the Oakland A's play one of their last home games of the year, just because that's the type of person he just loves baseball in general. But he also had to bite off more than what a normal clubhouse manager would have done in a normal year. He wasn't just making now grant I'm not taking this away from any of I'm just saying he did a lot more of the off the field in the front office kind of stuff than a normal clubhouse manager, taking care of the laundry, taking players where they need to go, this and that. He did do that, but some of the stuff that may have frustrated other people, he had more work than had to be done. He
Yep.
was doing things with the
It was
grounds crew. He
he was
was
everywhere.
he was everywhere. He was doing
Yep.
everything and anything
Yep.
that he was asked. So yeah, I would say that Brandon definitely would earn a front office member or staff member of the year. But again, we'll give it to him, but I could go with Taylor Campbell.
Oh, see, I knew you were going to say that, and I was right there. I was right there, and I said, there was a couple of people. One, I think Alex did a fantastic job with the ticket sales. We had a couple sellout games, right?
Mhm.
Taylor, phenomenal job with everything she touches turns to gold, and just does a fantastic job. You can go back and listen to the podcast that we had with Joe, where he was just, Taylor this, Taylor that, just talking about how she commands and does just a fantastic job and puts everything she has into it. Um, the reason why I didn't go with Taylor or I didn't go with Alex was because of the fact that you've got Brandon, a guy who was kind of thrown in this or stepped up to the plate, I guess you would say, uh, 17 years old, 18
Mhm.
years old. and going out there and just like living his best life, but doing so with class, doing so with humility, and just going out there and hey, this is what needs to happen to make the wheels turn, and I'm going to get it done. And so I had this I'm going to have to overrule you and say that it has to go to Brandon
And
McCray.
this is your award that you came up with out of the blue. It's just to me picking a front office member of the year for this group of front office members for me personally is
It's hard.
very
Yeah.
hard because it starts with Joe, who's the owner. He sets the expectations, but realistically, it's Anthony. Anthony is the one that runs the show, the day-to-day operations. He makes sure that everything runs smoothly, from making sure the players get what they want, what they need, to what the a volunteer staff member may need, or making sure that everyone, granted, the big boss oversees everything, but then you got the head of foods, you got Taylor, you got the grounds crew who's putting in countless of hours.
Yep.
It's so hard
So many, so many people making those wheels
and
turn.
that's I don't we're gonna miss there's people that we're gonna miss when talking about this, but it's so hard to pick out of a group of people that have excelled so well in what they've done. I've seen improvements in the last 3 years of the stadium, of just the hospitality, what they're being able to do, and I think they're brewing something good there. So it's very hard to be like, yeah, I'm choosing one over the other. But again, this is not my award,
Right. Uh,
and
so
I
all
have
I have to
no.
say,
I have
all I have to say, Brandon, congratulations on front office.
I
Uh,
have no
privilege.
objections. So from there, we'll go with that. Um, yeah, even though I know there's probably going to be people. I guess I should have said this at the beginning of the podcast. Uh, there's going to be people say, well, they had such a terrible year. How can you give awards out? Sometimes it's not to be modern that everyone gets an award, but it's also nice to for players that were shining on a team that didn't succeed the way that we all wanted them to. They still deserve that recognition.
Yeah, they still showed up. They still
There's
worked hard.
this isn't a participation trophy of here's our award. No, it's these players and the people that we talk about put in the work and the effort, even on a not so good team, did what they could do, and they deserve to be recognized for it. Just because the ship's
Absolutely.
on fire doesn't mean there aren't people trying to put it out.
That's correct. That's
So
correct.
that's where we're on that one. So that kind of, you have any more final thoughts on any of the awards?
Nope, nope. I agree with all of them, and I think that it was a good pick. Good picks.
I think we already talked about Josh going to the Puerto Rican League to play winter ball down there. So hopefully I can try to keep track of what's going on with him on that front. It's kind of hard with those kind of leagues that kind of get everything together, just because the numbers don't always match up, and it's not always the baseball reference match up, and they also have it in Spanish. So I can't read it. I don't speak it, so I have no idea.
There's a little
So
translate button on your phone you can hit that'll translate it to a different
it's
language for you.
too much
Just
time.
saying.
Sometimes
So
it works. Sometimes it works. But anyways, it's beside the point.
yeah,
Um, the one thing that I want to get, I know that I shared it on Facebook. Also shared it on Twitter to go to Facebook because I didn't see it on their Twitter feed. The people that I work with, the company that I work with on Friday nights, Lakeshore Public Media. If you are a fan of region football, you probably have heard of PFR, prep football, that kind of game night radio portion of it. Tommy Williams was a huge part of that. And, I didn't, I know this may sound a little weird. So when I was coaching football, this was in like 2017. And the the PFR guys came down, and Tommy would always interview. So they would have a game of the week, and the game of the week, Tommy would go and interview each coach from each side. And I was having to coach. I wasn't the head coach, but I was coaching, and he came down and interviewed our head coach at the time. So I there was a brief time that I met him, but I wasn't fully sure who he was. Then getting to know more about the RailCats and what he was able to do with the community, with the RailCats and Gary in general, and then how much he has meant to game night. There's not a day, and not there's not a Friday that he has not mentioned on the air, off the air. The first thing that Ben does, our host, when he at least mentions him at least once or twice before the show even starts. But they had a special segment that they were supposed to air on Friday. They had some technical issues. Hopefully, they get it all worked out, but they did post it on Facebook, and I shared it. I'll leave a link in the show notes as well. It talks about Tommy's impact to not only game night, but with the Gary South Shore Railcats, as Jason and Renee both sat down and with Lakeshore Public Media and had interviews just to talk about Tommy. It's short, 5, 6, 7 minute segment kind of thing. Uh, it just kind of showed you it kind of brought a tear to my eye a little bit, just what kind of person Tommy was. Uh, wish that I wish that I got into this a little bit sooner just to meet him more and understand him more. But sometimes when you're young and dumb and you don't realize certain things, you don't get to, uh, what's the saying? You don't miss it until it's gone kind of deal. So you kind of take something for granted. Um, and Tommy was one of those guys that I, would have liked to know better. And I think after watching that 4 or 5 minute segment, you would want to know him a little bit better. So I envy the RailCats fans that got to listen to him say people, people, people in the press box and get to know him, and the people that worked with him at game night or PFR. That was he was something special that I don't think that doesn't get in our fan base gets shown, but I just don't think it gets shown throughout the league, and that's one of those other bright spots about Gary that most people don't talk about. So
Which
that's
goes back to me saying that next year we should have a bobblehead that is a Tommy Williams bobblehead, that is the picture of him at the desk with the microphone, and in the front should have the banner that we have on the front of the press box now. There you go.
yeah, I agree.
Now, so we mentioned that, and you also mentioned the impact to the area. I was thinking about this as I was driving around today. We don't know if Lamar will be back. We don't know if K-Dub will be back. We don't know if Ramon will be back. We don't know anything about our coaching staff. Jason will be back. If any of these coaching people will be back. But I think that it would be really cool, just like um, the Lake Country Dockhounds had Robin Yount Day, where Robin Yount was a Yount, if that's how you say his name, was the coach of the day or coach for a day, and he was their first base coach. And he is Mr. Brewer. He is Wisconsin's guy. We have a couple of people from Gary that are also extremely important slash popular people. Specifically, Kenny Lofton, who I was told his parents have signed up to be host family for next year, I guess. So there is a connection there to the RailCats. Definitely would love to see a Kenny Lofton day where, hey, I mean, come on, Kenny Lofton, fantastic outfielder. And then you have LaTroy Hawkins,
mhm.
great pitcher, right? I think he had like 20 years in MLB, some crazy number. Uh, and so having a coach of the day type of thing where we have two games where they are, honorary coaches, I think would be fantastic. Matter of fact, when you have connections like that in the community, why are you not taking advantage of these people and their knowledge?
Yeah,
So,
well, I know LaTroy Hawkins. He comes once a year, like throughout the first pitch
yep,
kind of deal, but that have just to be able to tack more onto that, I think,
yep.
making it a better day out of it than just throwing a first pitch because, oh, okay, all right, you gotta be there for the first pitch to see him, and he may be walking around.
You don't even
Uh,
know that he's there until, when
yeah,
they do the first pitch, like 20 minutes before the game starts.
yeah,
You don't even know that you can't be prepared to be there. Think of the people that have LaTroy Hawkins cards that would be sitting there saying, "Man, I wish I had my cards with me right now." And they're not going to sit there and bring them to every game waiting for the game that LaTroy
hmm
Hawkins shows up to. So have a day. Have a LaTroy Hawkins day that you give away something, give away a RailCats t-shirt that says LaTroy Hawkins on the back.
yeah.
There's something like that where you could be like, hey, come on now. This is a regional guy, spent a lot of time in the MLB. I mean, you got to do something, make something out of these opportunities.
Yep, I would agree. There's a lot to discuss, and we have a whole whopping off season that's just begun. But every day that goes by, we get one day closer to baseball season.
Yes, yes.
It, it
And
may it may s- it
for
may
some
seem
of
far.
us, for some of us, we don't use baseball season as a gateway to hockey season. Okay. Some of us right now have no season. So we are in the middle of the ocean, flailing with no lifeboat, just waiting until we're ready to start signing people, waiting for that first pitch of the first game of the year. So just saying, you
Uh,
guys,
to
you guys have it.
to me, it sounds like you should be reading some baseball books. You
Uh,
know,
no, no.
or if you are subscribed to AATV baseball or AA.TV for American Association. You go back and rewatch the RailCats games, even if you may not want to. You go back and look at the good games, the ones that we
You know
won.
what? We should go back and watch the 30 winning games. It would not take us very long to do that. And then sit there and say, man, every game I watched, they won. It was unbelievable the season that they had. And we'll forget about all the other games.
You could rewatch if you would have stopped like after like started watching after the RailCats like last game, you could have watched two full seasons and a half a season every day before the first pitch. That's how long the off season is. Isn't that crazy? You
It
could
is.
watch
I didn't I didn't
267.
know the baseball was still going on. Apparently the MLB is still
Oh
playing
yeah, I did.
more games.
Yeah,
Okay.
I haven't watched been that intrigued in MLB baseball, and it's going on about 7 years now.
Yeah, I have no interest in it. I do have an interest in this. I did see that the Springfield Cardinals announced their player of the year, and it was not Brian Torres. And I was like, you made a mistake there. It should have been Brian Torres. So
Yeah.
other than that, that's the only baseball that
Well,
I
well, fun fact, I did so the team that Josh Smith is playing for last year, Brian Torres played for him.
yeah, yep.
So I looked
Actually,
that up.
if you look at their team, you'll see that they actually had a really good team last year.
Yeah, I think yeah they went pretty far. I think did they win
Yeah,
it all or
I
they went
think
pretty
a
far? I don't
couple of
remember.
AA guys there too. So, uh, that being said, I don't remember any. So last week we did our podcast
Hmm.
and we had a lot of speculation, a lot of questions that we had. And Joe messaged you or messaged us and then emailed me privately and said at the bottom of the email, if you have any questions, ask the source. And I thought that was so hilarious. So if you don't understand why we said, "Hey, Joe's listening to the podcast," now you'll know that apparently Joe's listening. We thought that there was nobody listening to this thing.
We should have let off with that.
Right. So, now you know why.
And to answer that question is as to why we don't just go to the source, it's because it's fun to speculate.
It is.
It's nothing to do with uh, getting the right answer at this point, or it's not to start anything. It's
Nope.
just the speculation. It's just one of those like for a minute, let us sip the Kool-Aid, okay? Let's just sip
Right.
the Kool-Aid of the fans, and then once it comes down to the nitty-gritty, then we'll ask the questions.
Yeah, it's part of being the fan is that you speculate, you think what are like for us, right?
Hmm.
The the opportunities are endless, right? It's a fresh look on a new season. You can sit there and say, okay, how do we get past this? What do we learn from this year? What do we got to look forward to next year? Our options are endless. When it comes to the owner of the team, they're not so endless. Well, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, but I like it being endless. I like being hopeful. And when you tell me that this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, it's like, okay, that takes all the spark and magic away from right now. Now, that does not mean that we won't continue to speculate. I hope that we will, right?
Hmm.
But I also hope that we have Joe on again because it was great to have him on the one time that we had him on. He's a great guy to talk to. And we, hey, let's figure it out. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about these questions or these things that we've talked about. And, hey, it's uh fun. Let's figure it out. Maybe he's taking notes.
Yeah. Or or not. Who
Or
knows?
not,
You one
right?
one one could speculate.
One could, you know what? I'm going to speculate that he's taking notes right now. He's saying, okay, what is it that Chuck and Kyle want? And all right,
Eh,
uh,
It's
the
not
first,
it's not it's not what Chuck and Kyle want. It's what do the fans want. Yes, we are fans.
yeah, but I'm going to time out on this one. Let's go with what Chuck
Okay.
and Kyle want. And the first thing that we want is we want um, RailCats cups that we can get at the concession stand that we can get refilled throughout the season, right? We want that. It would be nice to have ice cream helmets, that the kids can fill up some helmets with some ice cream and take those home, right? Or to have the souvenir helmets, that would be really cool. Um, those two things right there, I would love to have. So,
Okay.
Joe, if you're taking notes, let's take those notes right there. Let's also do Negro League Day when we face the Monarchs. You're gonna say something.
I
Hold on.
oh,
And then number two, let's have the Tommy Williams bobblehead. Okay.
so this is the fun part about baseball season is that it ends before Christmas season. So we could come up with a Christmas special of a Christmas list of what we
For
want
Joe?
for the 2025
Yeah.
season.
We could ask Santa Joe
Yes.
what. Yes.
Yes.
There we go.
There we go. We got it. See?
Let's
There,
scratch what I just said. Everybody
see,
that's
yeah, yeah.
listening, pretend
Just
like I didn't
just
say
just
anything.
cut it all out. We're just gonna
Cut
cut
it
it all
all
out.
out. We're not gonna edit it, but we went just pretend like it
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah, we're just
Woo!
yeah.
Ryan.
Ryan,
Ryan.
you need to cut this out. Ryan, okay, got it? Okay, cool. All right.
Ryan.
See,
Ryan.
Ryan's got it. Ryan's got it. We're good.
He's
All
a
right.
crazy guy.
You guys didn't say anything.
Ryan is 100% focused on this podcast all the flipping time.
And then there's Kyle.
And then there's Kyle. Hey, you're just the guy. You're just the guy on the microphone.
Oh, um, yeah. So this is a great opportunity to say this is the last episode of the 2024 season.
Okay.
We went over the rewards,
Yep.
we talked about the season,
Yep.
and we'll probably have Andrew Mild on, and we'll talk about the season, but that's a little bit different because that's going to be more of his experience of the season, and I didn't want to give people more of a relaxation period before we start hammering away at certain people. We'll have interviews and stuff coming out, but I just want to say this would be the official last podcast episode of
Done.
the 2024 season.
Done.
So going forward, it's going to be more about what reflecting on the 2024 season, but more talking about the 2025 season. That's what
Looking
we're kind of
for the
going for.
next year.
So, that's my final thought for the day.
Which is weird because in this area, normally you start talking about the next season like the first week of the last season.
Mhm.
As Cubs fans, it's always, well, we sucked this week, but there's always next year.
Or Bears fans.
Or Bears fans. Or
Oh,
like
I got to watch Caleb Williams run all over the Lucas Oil Stadium running for his life. It was the greatest day of my life. But that's beside the point. Um,
so. All right, I got nothing else. But I will say this. So for our show, um, the podcast around Thanksgiving time is when we will start our list of things for Santa Joe, of things that we would like to have, and see what happens.
yep. Well, we're gonna put the bow on the 2024 season. Obviously next week is going to start the new one, but I'm going to still end it like you're ending a normal show, like first season. I want to thank again everyone that listens to the podcast, that interacts with the podcast. I want to thank you, Chuck, for jumping onto the podcast, being my co-host, and helping drive my motivation to keep doing this, because now that I have two people or another person doing it, it's a lot better than me just doing it by myself. So that's always a positive. Front office, players, Joe, everyone in between of all that. Thank you for everything. This has been not the best statistical year, but it's been a fun year nonetheless. So yeah, that's gonna wrap this podcast up. I hope you
Uh,
enjoyed it.
you can't start. You can't say thank you to everybody and then leave me. Kyle, thank you for having me on here. It's been great. Okay, and now I understand why Ryan hates you so much is because you did not mention Ryan, the producer, at all in that whole thank you thing. So so thank you, Ryan, for producing this show and for really giving us that uh diamond that we've been looking for in a producer. I mean, that guy shows up and performs unlike us. Thank you, Ryan.
Right now, Ryan's gonna want a raise.
Ryan doesn't get paid.
He gets paid in time shown. All right, how about that? All right, but yes, for Ryan, the fake producer, Chuck,
Why do you got to
I'm
call him a fake producer? That right there is disrespectful to Ryan. He is the producer of the
sorry, Ryan. Okay, we'll talk about it later. All right. Yes, you'll get time out of the cage in a minute.
show.
For Ryan, he's Chuck. I'm Kyle. This is RailCats Talk podcast. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, whenever you're watching this. And go Cats.
Go Cats.
The 0-2. Swing and a miss, strike three. Wrap this one up in green and white.